So in this segment, we're going to be talking about kind of relationships and kind of families torn apart a bit because of the end of freedom of movement and the fact that certain people haven't been able to get residency within the countries they live in. Predominantly, it looks like Spain are the main talking point because I think a lot of older people go to Spain, but I'm sure there are other countries that are going to be impacted, or EU countries that British immigrants are going to be impacted by. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. So Mirror exclusive, hard-working Brits. I love the framing of this. Who dreamed of retirement, dividing their lives now between the UK and Europe, say their plans are ruined. With one pensioner forced to move after 20 years in Spain. But I'm sure, if you've lived that long in Spain, surely you could have applied for some sort of citizenship or something. So I don't know what Spanish, Spanish rules are on citizenship, but you would think at some point, if you've lived that long within a country, you would apply for citizenship, especially after Brexit happened. So a furious British pensioner living in Spain says immigrants, not expats, immigrants have been screwed over by Brexit as he faces being sent back to the UK after 20 years. So considerable upsides, no downsides. Maybe this man did not get the memo. Maybe Michael Gove needs to play one of those cards we are holding, since we hold all of them. And, according to Mr. Gove, he could have stopped stuff like this because we hold all the cards. So from the end of March, Brits who lived in Spain and who do not have residency had to leave as they were deemed illegal immigrants. In a further twist, one of the conditions that have to be met for residency was an income of £21,000 a year, ruling out thousands of pensioners because they don't make that sort of money. While many Brits who are able to sort their residency out before the rule change will be able to continue living in the sun-soaked continental dream. Is Spain that great to live in? Others, like those who own property or live on boats, are seeing theirs dashed. So, they're going to talk about multiple different people here whose lives have been, impacted negatively by Brexit. So we keep going. The Mirror spoke to two Brits and an EU citizen married to one who say Brexit has left their retirement plans in tatters. The fuming 72-year-old pensioner, who asked to be anonymous, said despite living in Spain with his Russian partner and their children for 2 decades, they face being separated by the country's new rules. These are not new rules. These were always existing rules. You've just fallen foul of them because of the end of freedom of movement, because people your age within this country hated seeing foreigners here from Europe and decided to vote leave. All right. Calm down, old man. So the pensioner said his only hope of being allowed to stay in Spain was to marry his partner, as she had a Latvian EU passport, so he can continue living in Spain. So just marry her then. Like honestly, this is ridiculous. If you've been with her for so long and this is detrimental to your life, just do it. He goes, we have really been screwed over. Again, maybe he didn't get the memo from Michael Gove. He goes, I have worked here for years, and so has my partner, who is still working. So, had you applied for residency at the time, you might have gotten it if both people are working. She enjoys all the liberties of the United Kingdom legally, and we own a home in Spain where she enjoys all the liberties, and she has an EU passport. Looks like membership of the EU does have its benefits, huh? Freedom of movement, it's a two-way street, and we ended it for both of us. So, maybe the British government could have negotiated something for these pensioners, but given that some of these people lived in the EU for so long, they might not have voting rights. And also the fact that maybe these people voted Tory or voted for Brexit thinking, well, I get to keep my freedom of movement, but I get to end it for other people, like we've discussed in previous videos. He says we spend 4 to 6 months a year in our home in Spain, but now I've been discriminated against. You have the victim complex here is ridiculous. Is ridiculous because you have not been discriminated against. These are the rules. These are the rules. I don't understand your problem. Don't claim discrimination. You're not some persecuted person within living within a foreign country. And if it's so bad that you feel like you're being discriminated against, just leave at that point, because you're a victim. You're a perpetual victim, and you will always look for victimhood. These are the rules. They have always been the rules for third countries, and you're falling foul of it because of Brexit. Blame the people who deserve to be blamed. Don't start blaming Spain for enforcing their rules. Ridiculous. He goes, we must leave after 90 days. Not we, he means himself. And leave, and he has to leave her for as long as she so wishes. And if she cares about you that much, maybe she would make that change. And maybe, she would come back to the UK with you after the 90 days. But then again, she works there, so that might be difficult. Or you could just marry her if you care about her this much. He says, we have always been equal in everything we do, but I have been told by the embassy that unless we marry under EU legislation, I will not be allowed to stay with my partner and may not return to her for a further 180 days. So this is a slam dunk at this point. I don't understand what this man's issue is. He says, I need care at my age. I'm dreading being forced to be on my own and away from my partner and friends in Spain for such a long time. This oven-ready deal will break many long-term relationships and destroy the long-term plans that many UK EU couples have chosen carefully in their younger lives. I mean, yeah, but it was people your age who voted out, right? So I don't have that much sympathy, especially since all you have to do is marry your partner and you'll be okay. A hard-working Brit who owns a villa in Alicante, hard-working, all these people work so hard, for their money, etc., but doesn't actually talk about what they've done and, how much of this was, maybe family money. She owns a villa in Alicante. She and her husband had hoped to spend half of every year in the property during their looming retirement. So a lot of older people have been impacted negatively by Brexit, despite a lot of older people within the UK voting for Brexit. So Miss Smith said the couple brought the villa over 2 years ago. Why would you buy a villa in Spain without knowing the rules around freedom of movement, especially when the government had been moving towards the end of freedom of movement? I know back then we had Theresa May, but Theresa May's stance was very clear. She wanted to end freedom of movement. She does not like minorities. Like, the whole Windrush scandal happened under her. Like, come on, guys. Honestly, that's it. This is embarrassing right here. Placing faith in the UK government to negotiate a post-Brexit agreement with Spain that would support homeowners in the country. Like, why would they care about people who live in a different country? Why would the Conservative government care? Conservative government don't care about people living within this country. You think they'll care about you? Are you a party donor? Do you have a lot of money? Are you a billionaire? I laughed audibly when I read that line. So hard. After Brexit, British passport holders like the Smiths can only travel in Schengen area countries for up to 90 days in every 180-day period. So they can visit, for a bit in the year, but then they have to go home. So Miss Smith said she hoped the UK and Spain would negotiate special travelling arrangements for non-resident Brits whose house... See, the framing here, again, from this person, acting like the Spanish government owe her something, when they don't. And most likely this tourism may be replaced by other countries. So, maybe the Spanish government will get less from tourists from, say, Germany or, Latvia or any other countries. But, most likely people will still go to these countries, like Spain, to visit. Maybe they won't spend as much, but that's still an option. So acting like the Spaniards owe you something here when we voted to leave is ridiculous. I don't think Spain will negotiate a special arrangement. I don't know if there'll be any rules around them being able to do this, or if Spain can outright do this for another country, a third country. Maybe someone in the comments could tell me that, because I couldn't find much on it. But, this idea that, the Spanish country, Spain, owes us something here, it just shows you that British exceptionalism still runs deep within this country. She had hoped that when she had retired, they would be able to spend November and February each year in the villa, while booking guests could stay in the winter months. So she was hoping just to rent the place out for a while. She goes, the pandemic was a blow because people, couldn't travel. She says, I didn't want to do this to ever get rich, blah, blah, blah. She talks about the amounts here that she pays and things like that. So if anyone wants to look into that, do the maths on it, let me know. The numbers are here. I couldn't be asked to do it, but if you feel so kind, feel free to do so. So this person, I think this is still Miss Smith, saying that she has guests at the villa, blah blah blah. She's a dispute resolution consultant, speaks fluent Spanish, and said she has always felt welcome as a Brit who spends a lot of time in the country. It's a shame that people from the EU who came to the UK did not feel that welcome. It's a shame that happened, isn't it? She worries that unless travel rules change for the scores of Brits who own property in Spain, her dreams of a future there would vanish. So, if you're a person looking for property in Spain, if you're a rich person in another EU country who's looking for a cheap villa in Spain, your time may come very soon. She says, I didn't want Brexit particularly, but I didn't get very distressed about it at all. Maybe because you didn't understand the implications of Brexit and the end of freedom of movement, just like a lot of people didn't, just like I didn't. But as time goes on, I'm feeling more and more alarmed because I don't think enough has been done to ensure that people who have property abroad have been considered. Again, why would they care about you? Why? Because you own a house in Spain, they should care? Meanwhile, Bert, this man who lives in Scotland, talks about how the rule change will impact him, who has spent their career working towards a life at sea. So yo ho ho and a bottle of rum. He and his wife own a yacht and base themselves in Greece for months out of every year. Living on the yacht and sailing around Europe was a long-time retirement dream they had worked towards. Bert says, "It is our dream really to be able to travel for months. It would really be our life, and it's not just us, it's many thousands of people in the same position." He says here, complex rules meaning UK flagged yachts would have to pay VAT for vessels in both the UK and the EU, as well as Schengen travel time limits could make safe seafaring a nightmare, Bert told The Mirror. The Cruising Association has launched a campaign to issue on the issue and is seeking, among other policies, a 180-day cruise visa for boating communities. So these people are looking for some sort of special conditions for them to carry on living their lives. It shows you the impact again that the end of freedom of movement has. Its campaigning points out that many Brits keep their vessels moored at marinas and in canals around Europe. Duties and tight travel times could force skippers to make dangerous return journeys to Britain to beat visa and VAT deadlines. So, I mean, if you're so concerned about these things, surely you would make sure there's enough time for you to come back, especially since Britain doesn't even care about asylum seekers and refugees, etc., coming through these dangerous waterways. You know, I don't think they're going to care much about you, friend, unless you start donating to the Conservative Party. But a Dutchman married to a Brit said the couple were in a tricky position. Like many intercontinental couples after Brexit, he can sail in the Schengen areas all he likes, but his wife cannot, and she would need to live in the Netherlands for 5 years before she could qualify for a spousal EU passport. But explained, well, I guess I know where you're going to be living, where she's going to be living for the next 5 years, potentially. They go on to say, and by the end of June 2022, they will need to sail their yacht permanently moored in Greece back to Scotland to avoid added duties. I mean, if you can afford a yacht, I don't understand why, you know, these sorts of fees, unless they're ridiculously high, are going to be such an issue. Bert added that he knew people in the boating community. He sold their houses and caravans to live at the sea. Many British pensioners come to Greece, had spent money, again, you know, saying that, oh, we spend money here, you know, we contribute to the economy, and the Greek people contribute by allowing you to live within their country, pushing up boat prices, pushing up port spaces, the prices on those, because you're causing competition by going to these places. And, you know, generally, some of these tourists are prats within the countries they live in, or they they go to. So, you know, this argument that, you know, we spend money and things like that, you know, these economies owe us something. No, they don't. Because EU migrants and EU migrants that came to this country who work and actually contribute more to the economy over their lifetimes than people within the UK that are natives here, you know, they made the same arguments. They were told, you know, we'll replace you with natives and things like that. You know, these countries, Greece and Spain, could make the same argument that they can replace you. There's 27 countries within the EU, my friend, and you're making the argument that you're going to spend money and blah, blah, blah there. You know, there are 27 other countries. Those people from those countries can take up the spots that you have left. And that's potentially what's going to happen here. You know, they may not pay as much, but there's an option there. You know, what options does the UK have for this? We don't have 27 other countries with freedom of movement, etc. We're on our own. It's ridiculous, the arguments these people are making. Bert said he hoped both sides would see the value of boating communities held for the UK and Europe. I mean, the EU offered agreements so that musicians could go to the EU from the UK and have, you know, don't need, you know, visas within a certain time limit, etc. The UK said no. So if the UK does not see the benefit of EU musicians coming to the UK to, you know, hold their concerts and stuff and contribute to the economy, and also UK-based musicians going to the EU to hold concerts and helping their economies out, what makes you think that the UK are going to see the benefit of people going on boats to go to the EU and spend their money over there? Surely the British argument would be, no, keep your boat around the cold, muddy waters of Britain and spend your money here. You know, it's ridiculous, the arguments people are making here. He talks about, you know, making friends with locals, etc. You know, spending in the economy longer term. Again, you know, making the argument that we spend in your economy, Greek, you're broke, you owe us something. You know, it's ridiculous. And he made an effort to pick up the language. I would hope so. If you're spending time in another country, that you would spend time to learn the language of the country you're living in. So you're not desperately asking people to learn English or whatever other language. Bert added that the loss of the retirement sailing dream would be a blow for the friendship between the UK and the EU. Again, making the argument that this is going to be a big loss for both communities. It's not. It really isn't. I can't imagine people in Greece staying up at night thinking, oh, this guy I met from the UK, it's going to be a real tragedy when he can't come back here. Unless he's your best friend, I can't see it. Sailing is not just from A to B. You stay, explore the countryside. The Greek people are very, very friendly. It's the same in Spain. Sorry, it's the same in Spain. You see how the other half is living. I mean, that's great and stuff, Bert, and I have a lot of sympathy for you because, you're a Dutch person who's married an English person and you didn't ask for any of this. But at the end of the day, the argument for the ending of freedom of movement was made by the British government, and the people within this country soaked it up because they didn't realise that they were going to be impacted that much. They didn't think about it. They used the logic of, well, I'm going to go over to Spain and spend some money, so it's in the Spanish government's interest to let me go, right? But they didn't think that people from the EU who come here as tourists and as workers do the same thing. They didn't think about it like that, did they? And Smiths and whoever else was mentioned in this article, they didn't see the other side, did they? And that's one of the reasons we had Brexit in the first place, because we thought we could have, the benefits from our side and get rid of all the bloody foreigners. But it didn't work, did it, mate? So anyways, we can see, in conclusion, the impact of the end of freedom of movement has had on different people. The fact that they can't live in their retirement homes. The fact that, as the old timer mentioned here, the pensioner somewhere, saying that, he's going to have to spend time away from his partner because she has a Latvian passport. She has freedom of movement and he doesn't. That's the end result of this, which is that, we now, people are now understanding the importance of freedom of movement, why it was so beneficial for people. And, for some of these people I have some sympathy for, but, you decided to buy a villa. Some of you people decided to buy a villa in Spain without understanding what the implications of Brexit was going to be. Very stupid and very naive. I'm going to leave it there before I throw any more insults. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.